All right. Welcome, welcome, everyone. I see people are joining as we speak. If you guys can just give me actually, I was going to ask everyone to give me a 1 in the chat if you can see me, hear me, see the screen, but it seems we're all good. Thank you, thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon now. Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Great. I am happy to announce this is our first event for 2023. Happy New Year, everyone. And we started off great. We have over 1,000 people registered to this one webinar. So I'm expecting everyone here to learn something new. And yeah, let's get the show on the road. So welcome to our NJThrives Small Business webinar. These are weekly webinars that we hold, and they're created for you, for New Jersey small businesses, to start, grow, and thrive. I'm your host, Christian Pichardo, NJSBDC Program Coordinator and Consultant, and also CEO at nilimamedia.com. So actually, before we start, I'd like to welcome our special guest from the NJBAC, New Jersey Business Action Center, Don Newman. He is Office Manager of Small Business Advocacy at the NJBAC. How you doing, Don?
Thank you very much. I'm Happy New Year and welcome to the initial meeting for this year. So I'm coming on here just to sort of introduce you who the Business Action Center is and tell you why I'm here. I'm here because we are business advocates. I happen to specialize in small businesses, and we are financial supporters from the Small Business Development Center. The money that they receive to provide these services to you today come through not only the Small Business Administration, but also the Business Action Center. So we are financial supporters, we're partners with them. So what do? Well, I help you navigate state government. I help you answer business questions, find resources. All of the things that, we have a line that we use sometimes that just says, if you have a business question, if you have a vision of something you want to accomplish, if you have a challenge that you're trying to overcome, contact us. Let us help you through that. Let us see if there are resources out there that can assist you. Obviously, the Small Business Development Center is one of those resources. But we can help you navigate state government. I can help you learn about government procurement, get certified as a women, minority, small, veteran-owned business, or service-disabled veteran-owned business. I can help you with simple things like accessing premier business services so that you can get a tax clearance certificate, so you can participate in a government program. Really, almost every question we can help. Now, we do have some other offices within our organization, including our business advocates that will help you with a project. So I'm building a building and I need to get through all the permitting process and learn about how to do that. We have a unit that does that. We are adding, and this is something that the SBDC is less likely to be able to help you with because of the federal money that they get, but we're adding a Cannabis Academy program to our suite of products that allows the business to go through a training session to learn about becoming a cannabis business. We also have a export promotion team, a global business team that can help you become an exporter. And we have a financial assistance program called NJSTEP that we can help you with that. So we have a lot of different resources that are out there. I see someone just asked about 501c3s. Yes, and there's some resources that we could discuss. When I'm done here, I'm gonna post some my contact information in the chat. But there are some resources that you can get that are specifically about nonprofits through different organizations, including the big surprise, the state library. Great resources for nonprofits. So let's have those kinds of conversations about what is available. That's really my message. Again, I'm going to post my contact information, a link to a business website called business.nj.gov, which I'll post in the site. There's a live chat feature on that site, so that if you have a question, you can go to that site, click on that live chat, and the people that will respond to that conversation are my office. If it's appropriate, we can transfer your conversation to somebody from the Treasury Department to answer tax questions, or from employer accounts in the Department of Labor to answer questions about your withholding accounts that are sitting over there, or to the Economic Development Authority. So we have a lot of flexibility on that live chat to get you the help the answers to your questions. And we also have a phone number, 1-800-JERSEY-7, which is our main number for communicating with our office. So that's really all I'm going to, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I know how fascinated you all are with you learning about QuickBooks. So I'm going to let you get to that. And but I will be in the chat for a little while. So if anybody has any questions, they can reach out. I may not be able to stay for the entire session today, but you'll have my contact information. You're welcome to contact me as well. All right. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today.
Awesome. Thank you, Don. All right. That was NJBAC. And as for the NJSBDC, if you didn't know who we are, basically we're a statewide program. We're powered by the SBA and state partners, and we help small businesses in New Jersey with three things: no cost small business consulting, training and events starting at $0, just like this one, and exclusive small business resources. So that being said, on our webinars, we usually go over three things. We have a few small business headlines. Today, we have a couple more than usual. I thought they were interesting, some from back in the holiday, but they're relevant today. And two, we jump into the webinar right after that. And towards the end, we hold a quick Q&A session. So these are a few of the headlines. We're going to go over them one by one. They're pretty quick. And we're going to put the links, by the way, into the chat so everyone can visit them after this webinar. So New Jersey's minimum wage increases to $14.13 an hour for most employees on January 1st. So this has taken effect. Just make sure you're updating any of your employees to this minimum wage. And that's pretty much it. Take a look at the article to see if your employees is who you have to apply it to. Number two, for anyone in the export business, or actually, you don't have to be in the export business to nominate someone who is. So basically, there is an awards nomination by the New Jersey International Trade Association, and you could basically nominate Exporter of the Year, Service Exporter of the Year, New Exporter, Minority Owned or Diverse Exporter of the Year. So this is great. So if you have any family, friends that are in the exporting business, this obviously helps them because they get the award, they get a bit of exposure. That's marketing for your business or for your friend or family business. So you can nominate anyone. And I believe, I don't think this has a due date. I'm sure there is, but it says here, must accept the award by May 17th. So now you know. Next one here, NJEDA announces a major milestone for the New Jersey Innovation Evergreen Fund. So I believe, yes, this one is I found this fund interesting because I believe this is the first time that the NJEDA or the state actually becomes an equity investor in the startups in New Jersey. So they're deploying up to 600 million into companies alongside venture capital groups. And the capital raised from the sale of these tax credits are expected to result in the funding of initial investments, et cetera, et cetera. So what does that all mean? More money for startups. So Again, we put these articles into the chat. I'm sorry if I'm going a little bit quickly, but I want to get to the webinar. So these are only for you to research later. Next one here is NJDA announces launch of new cannabis grant program. So it seems that there is about 10 million in state funding that's going to be made available for applicants, and it is for assistance in early stage expenses and technical training. So that's obviously exciting because in New Jersey, this is fairly new. And if you get into the cannabis business now, you're going to be sort of one of the pioneers in New Jersey, I guess. So that's fun. Next one here. Whoops, skip this one. So this one is an addition to an existing program, the Sustain and Serve program. And basically it supports the purchase of meals from New Jersey restaurants that were negatively impacted by COVID-19 and the distribution of those meals at no cost. So that's 5 million in addition to that fund. And it seems that, let's see, okay, this just talks about the beginning. But yeah, if you're in the restaurant business, this is definitely interesting for you. And last one here is the CSIT, which is the New Jersey Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology, is now accepting applications for the pilot Clean Tech Demonstration Program. So that is a $2.5 million competitive program. It supports New Jersey tech-based companies to accelerate the commercialization and deployment of innovative clean energy technologies. Now, for this one specifically, here at the NJSBDC, we run a tech program, and we have a tech team that will be able to help you submit proposals to government entities and get awarded so that you can go through your phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of your tech. So if you're interested in that, you could definitely email us at tech@njsbdc.com. But those are all of our headlines today. I feel like I sped through those a little bit, so I'm sorry about that. But I do want to give you what you came here for. So before we jump into the webinar, 2 things to keep in mind. Please put any questions into the Q&A box. As you see, the chat is super fun right now. There's a bunch of people in there putting their insights, feedback, contact info, and your question might get lost in there. So please use the Q&A icon that should be on the bottom of your Zoom screen to submit any questions, and we're going to take them towards the end of the webinar. And number 2 is once this webinar closes out, you're going to get redirected to a survey. You have to get to the end so that it could redirect you automatically. And you're going to fill out a 3-minute survey. And after you do that, you'll get access to the webinar presentation, so the speaker's actual slideshow, and the on-demand video recording of this webinar. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome Sierra Gutierrez, and she's going to show us today QuickBooks for Small Business.
Hi,
How are you,
everybody.
Sierra?
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for the introduction. Let me just share my screen here. Whenever.
The show is yours.
Thank you. Here we go. And apologies, everyone. All right. So first off, Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. It is an honor for me to share this information with you, to be a part of the NJSBDC, and be a free resource to small business owners like yourself. I'll give you a little background about me. I've been helping small businesses for over 15 years in various industries. So I'm very well versed in QuickBooks because I've been using it since 2009. So there are many different QuickBooks platforms, which will kind of do a general overview today. But the point of this webinar is to show you, even though there are different platforms available for you, that they can be tailored to whatever industry you're in and whatever size your business is. You can be an entrepreneur, you can be a restaurant, you can be a medical practice, a law practice. This is a product that's designed for everyone. So I just want to go over some of the key elements that are within this platform. I also want to reiterate how useful the NJSBDC is. Consultants like myself are readily available for you guys at no cost. So after this webinar, if you stick around for the survey, I believe it brings you to the general website where you guys can sign up with your local regional SBDC center. And you can get someone like myself to walk you through this and help you through this so that you can get any questions that you have answered in detail. That is why we are here, to serve our communities. I come from a small business background. My mom is an entrepreneur. I understand the challenges firsthand of being a business owner, not understanding all of the facets of owning a business, particularly finances and accounting. So it is truly an honor for me to be here with you guys today. And like I said, this is very general. We have very limited amount of time. So I will do my best at the end to answer anything in the Q&A. I cannot look at the chat because there's so many of us here today, but I will do my best to answer any questions. Like I said, I've worked with multiple industries, so I'm sure there'll be a question that I have an answer for, okay? So let's get started. So what is QuickBooks? Okay, QuickBooks is an accounting software package developed and marketed by Intuit. First introduced in 1983, QuickBooks products are geared mainly towards small and medium-sized businesses. QuickBooks has a cloud-based platform called QuickBooks Online, as well as various desktop versions. So if any of you are familiar with the Intuit products, such as TurboTax, Mint, which is a budgeting app or tool, QuickBooks is owned by the same company. So if you ever use TurboTax or any of those products, QuickBooks syncs seamlessly with anything that's under the Intuit umbrella. So that is a key point that I want to tell you guys, because for example, if you were to have QuickBooks and decide that you're going to use TurboTax, TurboTax will read the information from your QuickBooks file. So there won't be double entry or anything of that sort. And the numbers will be the actual numbers that are in your QuickBooks file. That being said, we got to make sure the numbers are correct. All right. So why would you choose QuickBooks? Why am I such an advocate for QuickBooks? First and foremost, it's incredibly user-friendly, incredibly user-friendly. Like any other software, it's best to do it with training so that you can understand how to navigate it very easily. But I do feel that the various platforms available based on the level of service that you want is very straightforward and very easy to use. You can tailor it to any industry. So as I mentioned, I've worked in various industries, yet I've used the same platform because based on the business model, I can change the way I want QuickBooks to quote unquote look, or the utilization of it rather. When you set up your QuickBooks, whether that's the online version or the desktop version, it's going to ask you a series of questions about your business, which I think is usually what's most daunting to most people is why would I open up a accounting software subscription or buy a license if I'm not an accountant, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, that's why they're so user-friendly, because based off the questions that you answer, such as what industry are you in? How many are you using this for payroll? Are you using this to send invoices? Do you manage your inventory? Based on all the preliminary questions that are given during the setup is what builds out for your QuickBooks. So you don't have to worry about having experience or knowing exactly all the accounting terminology, because the setup will create a standard template, so to speak, based on your industry or your business or whatever it is that you are utilizing QuickBooks for. Another question I get a lot from people is, if I have a QuickBooks account or I have a business, but I have multiple businesses under that business, do I have to take out a QuickBooks license for each one? Yes and no. So QuickBooks Online allows you to have one sign-on where you can see all your businesses, and each company will have its own set of books, okay? No business is too small. I was a consultant for many years, and I did I'm a one-woman show. I did all of my finance, accounting, everything through QuickBooks as a solo entrepreneur. So one person, two people, does not matter. Even if you haven't even started your business yet, you haven't started sending out invoices, but you want to make sure all your preliminary costs are being captured, that you can keep records of any expenses that you're going to incur or anything of that matter. You can start at any time. You can create your own financial statements. This is also a really big one. So I know in the upcoming webinars, we're going to go deeper into what financial statements are and how to read them. But that's probably one of the key takeaways from utilizing QuickBooks, is that you don't need to contact your accountant if you need to look at your profit and loss for this week, for this month, or for this year, or for the year before, depending on when you start to import the data. You have the information at your fingertips. So the ability to be self-sufficient and to also know the status of your business, of course, if we're updating the numbers, is pivotal in the growth of your business, and also understanding what you're making and what you're spending. Cash flow management, that's a big, big takeaway from QuickBooks as well. So cash flow management is understanding the life cycles of your business. Sometimes it's peak season and sometimes it's very slow. There's a trend. If you're using an accounting software, you can, after some certain time in business, you can kind of see it even via graphs, how your business kind of flows. So that's a great, great tool that QuickBooks offers. We are in January, which means we're kicking off tax season, and QuickBooks will help you be prepared for your taxes. That's so instrumental. Your CPA will love you if you have QuickBooks, because you're going to eliminate the guesswork, and you're also going to know so many of the things that you don't want to find out when you have to file your tax return. You're going to know it well before. You're going to know what decisions you need to make. You're going to have literally the knowledge at your fingertips. So important for all of my business owners to understand that having your books is in order is just incredibly, incredibly important to ensure your success. Okay. And like I mentioned, accessing your financial data at any time, as long as the information is being updated on a regular basis, your numbers are your true numbers. So an example I like to say to business owners is, let's say you're looking at your business checking account, and your checking account says that you have $10,000 in there. But yesterday you wrote $9,000 worth of checks, right? If you're looking at the bank account this morning, you're going to say to yourself, oh, I have $10,000, right? But you don't. You only have $1,000 available for your use. So it helps you just make better decisions. It helps you manage your budget better. And it also helps you understand where exactly you're falling as far as either the estimates that you've had based on what you think your revenue is going to be, or, it's real factual numbers, not just what we think we're doing. We're going to know exactly how we're doing. Okay, so we're going to go into some of the basic functions of QuickBooks, and this is either QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. And a little further into the presentation, we'll go over kind of the difference between both. Okay, so bank feeds. Bank feeds is where you would connect your bank accounts, credit cards, credit lines, loans, anything that is connected to your business, okay, to your business, you would connect it to QuickBooks. The data would auto import after you've signed in and set up your credentials and allow, create security functions and all of that. It will auto generate all of the data for you. So you don't have to manually type in transactions. As long as it's mapped correctly, everything is going to go into different profiles. So if you have a bank account, a loan, a credit card, you will see a profile in the bank feed section for each one, where you can review the transactions in each one under one place. Why is this great? Let's say you have multiple accounts with multiple banks, and one single sign-on for one bank is not going to show you all the activity of your business. That's where this is just a great tool to utilize. Another thing, and we'll talk about it more when we go into QuickBooks Online, is that you're able to connect your PayPal. Stripe, not directly, they work with a third party to help you import the transactions. So that also eliminates that double entry or having to, use one system and then use another to receive the data, okay? Entering your vendor bills, that is very, very important. If you are paying multiple vendors, especially for my restaurants out there that have a ton of bills that come in on a daily basis, you need to have that organized and by terms, right? So let's say you have $100,000 worth of bills, but only for this week you need to pay $30,000. Then we're going to make sure we only pay whatever is within the term limit, right? We're not going to go ahead and shell out $100,000 unless we have a lot of cushion. So running certain reports for your vendor bills will also help you a lot with budgeting and cash flow management. And it'll help you see everything very, very clearly. Creating customer invoices. This is key, especially for my consultants out there. You want to create an invoice, send it out to your client, have them open it on their email, pay it through Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever way they have automated. You're going to get paid so much faster. And if you're doing the same kind of services, you can create item codes with the prices and everything already pre-generated. So it's very, very easy to send those invoices out. Also, QuickBooks, whether desktop or online, allows you the feature of seeing if the customer opened the invoice, which I think is key for those customers out there that said, oh, I never saw it. I never opened that email. You sent it, whatever. You have a timestamp. So I think that's a pretty neat feature. Payroll processing. Both applications, online and desktop, do offer you the ability to process your own payroll. I only suggest this for very small companies under 4 or 5 employees, because payroll taxes and a lot of other factors can get really sticky. So I wouldn't recommend this 100% unless you're very well versed in processing payroll, but it is an option available to you should you need it. And then we go about creating financial statements. So a little bit about financial statements. There's various: profit and loss, which is where you see your revenue and you see your expenses. So if this month you earned $100,000 in sales and you spent $95,000 between paying your staff, paying rent, paying your lawyer, paying your accountant, paying whomever, then the net profit would be revenue minus expenses. So you'll be able to see that and create those reports on a weekly basis. You can see it by day, you can see it by project, you can see it by event, you can see it by month, by year, by quarter. As long as the numbers are there, you can see the actual figures without, again, having to rely on your CPA. Balance sheets. This is more of this this is a little more advanced. This is more where your CPA would be doing certain journal entries for you, or for my my business owners out there that have some accounting experience and know how to create general journal entries. That would be where you would make any adjusting entries. This is where your assets and your liabilities would be. So your assets would be anything like, accounts receivable, invoices that, for services that you have generated, but maybe haven't collected on. There's a value to that. Inventory, cars, that are owned by any equipment that's owned by the business, that all would be labeled as an asset that would be shown on your balance sheet. Your liabilities, also your bank accounts. So whatever cash you have on hand in your bank accounts, that would be considered an asset as well. So your liabilities would be anything you owe. So credit cards, short-term business loans, long-term business loans, any state tax payable. So you collect sales tax on invoices for products that you sell. It would show in that balance sheet that you owe that money as a liability until it's paid. So that's the purpose of the balance sheet. Accounts payable report is the example I gave with the vendor, knowing how much money you owe to whom in a summary or a detailed basis, especially if you have someone else doing the data entry and you are the one and paying the bills, and you want to see, how much do we owe X, Y, and Z? Why do we owe X, Y, and Z this much? These reports help you see that without having to go vendor by vendor and try to figure it out. Accounts receivable report. This is great for my small business owners out there that are generating invoices to clients or customers. This will show you who owes you what and how long have they owed you that money. So if you're giving people 10 days to pay you invoices and it's day 15 and they haven't paid you, it'll show as past due. This will greatly, greatly improve your collection efforts. If you have someone who does collections for you, this is the report that you can hand off to them without them having to see your entire QuickBooks. Budgets is another thing. It's another feature. If you want to start off the year saying, I want to spend X amount of money in all these different categories, it will show you how in tune with the budget you are when you run it every month. So that's also super key for any businesses out there that have a lot of spending. Okay, I know people are raising their hand. Please put your questions in the Q&A box if possible, because I want to get through as much information as possible for everyone in this limited time. Thank you, guys. All right, so this dashboard here is QuickBooks Online, okay? And it looks different than QuickBooks Desktop. I don't know how many of you have used either format, but it's looked relatively the same for the last couple of years with some small tweaks here and there. On the left-hand side would be the different sections within your QuickBooks subscription, and just different areas that you can jump to easily. On the left, you see banking, you would see your sales, customers and leads, cash flow. That's where I explained to you about, understanding the life cycle of your business as far as revenue is concerned. Your expenses, this is where you would find your vendors. Payroll, if you choose to utilize the QuickBooks payroll function, you would work through that. Time is a feature that they have in case you want people to clock in and out using the QuickBooks system. Reports, that's the 5 reports I mentioned are just one of the few reports that are within QuickBooks Online, or in QuickBooks in general. So there's many, many different reports out there. And that is kind of like the report hub. Taxes, this is where you would look at if you collect sales tax, what you owe, how quickly to pay it. Or if you're doing quarterly tax payments, it would show there if that's something you and your CPA have agreed on. Mileage as well, if you're tracking mileage. Accounting, this is where we would reconcile the account monthly. Reconciling a bank account, for those who are not familiar, is the same as balancing your checkbook. You are comparing your statement looking at it, reviewing it. We're comparing the statement of transactions that have been imported into QuickBooks, and we're verifying that everything is good and everything is clear. Once we reconcile our accounts, all of the accounts linked to the business for said month, right? That's after we do that, meaning we verify the transactions. That's what reconciling is. We make sure there's no fraud, which we know in this day and age, we have to be incredibly vigilant with. You run your reports after you've reconciled for the month. The reason why we do that is if we don't reconcile, we can't verify that all of the income and expenses have come in for that month. So the only way to make sure that our reports are 100% accurate is after we reconcile all of our accounts, okay? My accountant. So if your CPA works with QuickBooks, which 98% of them do, they would be completely linked to your account, which means that if they need to file anything on your behalf, if they need to generate any report, if they want to know, if they're in conversation with you and they want to tell you in more detail what certain things mean, they could look at your books at any time. Capital, that is a feature that QuickBooks has in case you want to apply for any capital infusion. Their interest rates are kind of high, so just keep that in mind. But they go based off of their offers to you, go based off your numbers. They can tell you what they can offer you because they can see how your business is doing. So that's a no-brainer for them. A lot of people are concerned with QuickBooks Online as far as security. Intuit is incredibly, I don't even know what the word, they're extreme when it comes to security because they house such sensitive information. Like I said, they are the owners of TurboTax. So they have access to tons of social security numbers. So your information here is completely secure. You do not have to worry about a data breach or anything like that, especially because they also have two-factor authentication. So if you set up your QuickBooks account on this computer and then you go on your phone and try to log in, it's going to send a text message to the primary phone number linked to the account or a phone call. I think it's only text message now, or an email to the main email. So no one can get in from an unregistered device unless they have that second code, which I think gives a lot of people peace of mind. Also, the great thing about having QuickBooks Online is the accessibility of it. You can access it through an app on your phone. You can access it on an iPad. You can access it on your desktop. So it doesn't need to be installed into the computer. You can install the app to help utilize it better. But you don't need to install it anywhere. It's completely cloud-based. So that helps with accessibility, portability. If you're in the middle of a meeting and need to upload a receipt, you can do it through your phone. If you need to answer a question, you're speaking with your financial advisor and you need to know some numbers, you can do it on your phone. You don't need to, get on a computer. I think that's also great for the day and age that we're in. We need to be able to access our information efficiently, especially based on the kind of business that you are. For some business, QuickBooks Online is not feasible. There's certain parts of it that is limited. It's a little more simple, even though there's several tiers based on the number of users. If your business is incredibly complex, I would not recommend using QuickBooks Online. This is great for, very specific industries. And I can definitely, if you're not sure if your industry would be a good fit, please put it in the Q&A and I will give you my honest opinion. I use both platforms, so I know which industries work best with what. And also, the great thing about QuickBooks Online is that it's able to have a lot more integrations than desktop. So it's just a little more modern, a little more sleek, as you can see in its appearance, and a little more user-friendly. There's also a chat function available for you. So if you're ever stuck and you're not sure what to do, they will certainly help you. All right, so let's go to some of the key points I said is that QuickBooks Online is cloud-based, which means all you need in order to access it is internet access. You can access it from anywhere in the world, as long as you have internet. You can access it from your phone, your iPad, your computer. It's easy to navigate. It's great for consultants and service-based businesses. It's not that great for inventory-based businesses because there are some limitations to inventory management with it. But I've seen kind of a 50-50 with clients using it. Easy payment processing. So a lot of my service-based clients, consultants, like using QuickBooks payment processing for customer payments. So when you send them the invoice, it'll say pay now, and it'll give them the Apple Pay and all of that. Although the interest rates may not be as competitive as like a traditional merchant processor, you would get quicker turnaround as far as payment is concerned. Because an example I like to give is that my daughter's school uses QuickBooks Online. When the tuition statement comes in every month, all I have to do is pay it through my Apple Pay. I don't have to take out a checkbook. I don't have to swipe a card. I don't have to look for my purse. I pay it through Apple Pay and they get their money and everybody's happy within 10 seconds. So I think it's worth the additional cost because your client is more inclined to pay faster. That's just my personal opinion. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of integrations that work with QuickBooks Online. You can sync your data in real time. The cost is $25 to $180. This is for the smaller subscriptions. There's more advanced QuickBooks Online, but that's more enterprise. So we're talking about 250 users and plus. I don't think anybody on the Q&A today or on the webinar today is of that size. But like I said, if you're unsure which platform would be best suited for your business, please state your industry and the amount of employees that you have, and I can help you from there. As mentioned, users 1 to 25, depending on the QuickBooks platform. This is completely subscription-based. So that means you don't buy a license, you buy a monthly plan. So you can always go up or you can downgrade, but if you don't pay the bill, you don't have access to your data. So with QuickBooks Desktop, it works a little bit different, and we'll go into that next. All right, so this is QuickBooks Desktop. This is the Pro 2021 version. There is a 2022 version, which looks very, very similar. There's not much of a difference. But as you can see, it looks aesthetically different than QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Online has more widgets, and it's a little sleeker and a little more modern. And this is a little more of our traditional accounting software. So as you noticed in the last picture, or maybe you didn't, everything has a flow. There's like a flow map, and it goes according to how the processes should work. Depending on your business, this might be your best option. So QuickBooks Desktop is a license that you buy, and the license cost depends on the software package you choose. So there's different tiers to QuickBooks, and depending on what you utilize for is the cost of the license, along with the amount of users that you have. QuickBooks Desktop needs to be installed in a computer, preferably Windows. There is a Mac option. I don't feel like they are equal in ability. I personally am a Mac user, and I do not enjoy QuickBooks Online QuickBooks Desktop for Mac. But to each their own. I feel like it just works so much better on a PC. So as you can see, there are these little icons that are on the dashboard are also a way for you to get to certain areas within QuickBooks a little faster. So if you're not familiar with certain processes, you can just click on and it will take you to that particular section. The great thing about QuickBooks Desktop is that it's secure. Since it's installed directly on the computer, you have complete autonomy of who has access to it. So unless someone has access not only to your computer, but also to the login, they would never be able to see this information. You're able to generate much more sophisticated reports with QuickBooks Desktop. Like I said, this is more the traditional accounting software. So if you have inventory, if you need to produce purchase orders, if you need to do anything that's a little more advanced when it comes to accounting, this would be it. Like the other one, based on the amount of licenses that you get or the amount of users that are housed within your license, you can add different functionalities to different users. So let's say you're the owner, you would be considered the admin, right? And you would have full view of everything that has to do with your business. Let's say you have an accounts receivable clerk, and all you want them to see is anything customer related, such as customer information, customer reports, invoices outstanding, but that's it. You don't want them to see your bank account activity or credit card activity or anything else. You can restrict their access to only be able to see what's called the customer center and to generate certain permission, or to have certain permissions to generate certain customer-centered reports. The same thing goes if you have an AP specialist. If you want them to only be able to see vendor bills and anything that has to do with paying bills, but no bank account access, no credit card information, none of your personal information, if somehow it's in here, they wouldn't be able to access that. And that's also a feature in QuickBooks Online. You can tailor permissions to anybody that you assign. Obviously, your CPA would need to have full access in order to see the numbers, because if anyone has limited access and they try to generate reports, it's not going to pick up every part of your business and the reports won't be accurate. So when running reports on either QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online, the person that is running the report needs full permissions in order to have full access to the business, okay? That being said, full access to and permissions for reports is when we're talking about financial statements, not if they need to see an accounts receivable report or accounts payable report. If you've assigned that permission to them, they can do that, but they wouldn't be able to run a profit and loss for your business, okay? So a little overview of QuickBooks Desktop and some of the key points that I discussed is that QuickBooks Desktop, there's 3 different versions. There's Pro, Premier, and Enterprise, all at different price points, depending on what you're utilizing QuickBooks for. As I mentioned, it's installed directly on your computer, which limits accessibility. If you don't have the computer or that person does not have access to the computer, nothing can be done on QuickBooks unless you remote in, which we know can sometimes be tedious, okay? Advanced level reporting, QuickBooks Desktop is a little more sophisticated in the way the reports are displayed and created. There's a lot more customization available. So it's definitely worth the investment. Industry specific features, both platforms offer this, but QuickBooks Desktop has more. Sales orders, QuickBooks Online does not do sales orders, QuickBooks Desktop does. So if you work heavily with sales orders, just keep that in mind. Complex accounting, that's also kind of piggybacking what we said, that QuickBooks Desktop is just a little more advanced in the features that it has. The cost for the yearly license is about $349 per user, or I think for 2 users. And then it can go up based on, again, which package you're choosing and how many users you have. Windows only, meaning that it just works best on Windows. That's just my personal opinion, but you guys are free to use it however you see fit. So going back to the financial reporting, okay, the accounts payable report, right? Accounts payable report is going to show you when your bills are due. Very important. Again, all of these reports that we're looking at right now are available either QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online, all right? Accounts receivable. This is what you would use to optimize your collection efforts. If you need to have your staff member call 25 clients, you know, you would print out a 1-page report that would show what all the clients' information, all they owe. If you want to show all the invoice numbers, If you want to show how past due they are, their phone number, their email, however you want to do it, you can download a PDF, you can download it in Excel, however you see fit, okay? Budgets. Budgets are really important in order to see how you're progressing, specifically mid-year and end of year. If you only budgeted $1,000 for tech support and ended up spending $15,000 for tech support, then your budget is off. Be better prepared for the next year. Banking is great because you're able to print out, let's say someone else writes the checks for your company. You have a full charge bookkeeper and they have autonomy of who to pay and what, and they just need to send you a list every day of all the checks they wrote out. They would be able to send you that report with all the information of any checks that were written. Again, profit and loss statements. This is so important. This is what's going to show your income minus your expenses, which will show your true profit. There's a lot of clients that I've worked with that wholeheartedly think that their business is doing far better than it is, only because they don't understand financial statements. And that is what sets us up for failure, because if you don't understand what your business is really generating and what you're really spending, you're going to go downhill really, really quickly. Balance sheet is where you see all your assets and liabilities. We had mentioned that before. That's where you would see, your bank balances, your equipment, your inventory, if you owe any credit cards, if you owe any loans, that would be all in your balance sheet. All right. So taxes. I had mentioned this a little bit in the beginning about how QuickBooks just helps you have a better tax processing season as a small business owner. If you are a small business or you're confident in your tax processing skills, you can file your tax returns, your 1099 filings, all through QuickBooks, directly through TurboTax. So if you're a very small company, or like myself, I've been using TurboTax for years. I've always done my own taxes. All I have to do is import the data from QuickBooks, and it's pretty seamless. You don't have to think or guess. And that is why it's so important to make sure you're connecting all of the bank accounts that are linked to your business. So a question I often get is, what if I spent $30 buying stamps, but it was my own money, but I want to make sure that it's captured in QuickBooks because it's not in the banking, right? It was my own money that I used. So essentially the business owes me $30. You would create a journal entry for that would capture the expense, right? Because we want to show that the business spent $30, but we also want to show that the business owes you $30. So that's why it's so important to have your books in order, to have someone who understands how to run your books. And I also think every business owner, even if you say, this is not for me, this is too complex, accounting's not my forte, I don't enjoy this at all, you need to understand how the system works. You need to understand what financial statements are. Because when you and your CPA or your financial advisor are sitting down and having a discussion about the health of your business or the goals of your business, you need to understand the verbiage and the language, and you need to feel confident in the information that's being presented to you. So doing that and having knowledge of how this system works, even if you're not the one maintaining it, is very, very important for you to be successful. You don't have to do it every day, but you should understand it. And I think that is it for the presentation on my end. I know we have a lot of questions to answer, so I tried to zoom through that as fast as possible. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Awesome. Thank you, Sierra.
You're welcome.
Yes, we do have tons of questions. So we're going to sift through them a little bit. Just give me one sec. I'll pull up my screen here. All right. So before we start, just want to let you guys know that you can scan the QR code on the screen right now, and that will take you to register at no cost and the consulting is at no cost as well. So yeah, there you have that. Now, for questions, first question here from Carolyn. She says, this is in reference to the QuickBooks checking card for the businesses. If a business pays an invoice, but through the QuickBooks debit card, not the portal, does this also charge a fee for businesses sending money directly through the business debit card?
I would definitely ask QuickBooks on that, because a lot of their pricing is volume based, meaning the number of transactions you're doing per month or per cycle. That's really where the pricing point is. I'm not very familiar, so I don't want to give you a code or numbers because it's not my wheelhouse, but it doesn't hurt to ask them and see if it's a better option.
Awesome. Shakira asks, what if you use Tax Act? Can it sync with that tool?
I believe there's a way to import or export your data to show for the entire year. So that way it can autofill into Tax Act. I'm not sure if they integrate fully, because from a business perspective, why would QuickBooks want to work seamlessly with another competitor? It doesn't make sense. But you would be able to see your numbers in full. So you would be able to run a report in QuickBooks for your year, see all of your information in one spot, and either export it via Excel or manually enter it. I don't believe there's an integration. I may be wrong, but I don't think so.
Awesome. Same person, if we operate more than one business, should we create multiple accounts on QuickBooks?
You can create one account for, let's say, the first business, and then you can add additional companies. So let's say I say Ciara Gutierrez Company, and Ciara Gutierrez has a shoe store, a laundromat, I don't know, a pet store. Then it would be Ciara Gutierrez Company, the shoe store. All of them would be under the first one, but all of them would have their own set of books. It's just that it would be one sign-on. So I can switch from company to company and see all the information.
Awesome. Jenny asks, basically, does QuickBooks share financial info with third-party companies such as the IRS? Is there some type of security or privacy that's involved there?
No, QuickBooks will only share your information with the IRS if you're filing taxes with QuickBooks, because they have to share the data. But let's say you are using QuickBooks for your own personal use, and you and your accountant print reports from QuickBooks, and your accountant takes your report and, files taxes on your behalf. The IRS wouldn't have access to that data because it hasn't been imported directly to them. So there's plenty of business owners that I know that use it just for informational purposes and don't utilize it to export data at all. So unless you're sharing and giving permission to someone to share your information, it's yours.
Awesome. Question from Anonymous. What if I've been using QuickBooks, but incorrectly? Is there a way to update or change it?
Well, yes, there's always a way to start from scratch. It depends on how far back or how long you've been using QuickBooks. I would say it's easier to start from day one. You can import your data from many years. So as long as, if let's say you started today, we're in 2023, but you want to organize your books from 2020, 2021, 2022, you totally can. You can start from the beginning. You would just have to contact them directly if you already have an active subscription and let them know, hey, this is a mess. I don't even know where to start. I just want to start from zero. And sometimes with the clients that I meet with, they've been, in QuickBooks doing things, changing things. And I'm like, it's just better to start from scratch and we can find the problem versus finding a needle in a haystack.
Awesome. So there's tons of questions here on the functionalities, and we'll probably have a part 2 because there's a lot of things such as, can I download to an Excel PDF? Can I add this to that, things like that. So we'll save those questions for a demo, or definitely register and request counseling. Again, it's no cost, and you get to talk to someone one-on-one and dive deep into your business specifically.
Yes.
But I did see a common thread on a question as what version of QuickBooks is best for what type of business.
Yeah.
So I think the general question was based on industry, does it matter? And also based on employee count, does it matter?
Absolutely. So it definitely matters based on industry, and it definitely matters based on employee size. So just from a legal standpoint, payroll standpoint, if you're less than X amount of employees, there's certain tax forms that you need to fill out and certain that you don't. So you would need a different level of payroll service, right? Based on the amount of employees. The same thing goes with QuickBooks. Now, if you're a company that just walks dogs, and you have 500 dog walkers, that's a very simple business, right? People are just going, getting paid hourly, coming back. You don't need a super complicated accounting system for that because it's service oriented. So anything service oriented, my consultants, anyone that's charging an hourly rate, meaning not selling a product, not having inventory, QuickBooks Online is always a great idea, right? If you are a restaurant, if you are someone who holds inventory for whatever reason, I think QuickBooks Desktop is better. If you are in real estate and you work on renovations and you flip homes, you can use either or, QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. QuickBooks Online is great because you're able to kind of do reports based on projects. You can tag transactions. So let's say you're in real estate and you're renovating 4 projects at the same time, but you're using one contractor. The contractor sends you a bill, but it's divided into 4 properties. You can tag each property within that bill. So instead of it being $10,000 in, I don't know, paving costs, it'll be $2,000 for house A, $2,000 for house B, et cetera, et cetera. Both of them allow that. You can tag in different ways within both systems, but they both give you that functionality.
Awesome. So it seems that the consensus would be QuickBooks Online if it's service-based and you have sort of simple things in your business. You don't have too many moving parts. And QuickBooks Desktop is more for product-based businesses, people with inventory, things like that.
People that work heavily with sales orders, purchase orders, et cetera. QuickBooks Desktop is just a better way. But if you're a lawyer, if you're a medical practice, you're a real estate agent, you're a consultant, you sing at weddings, if it's very simple, compared to like, I'm a person that I work with wood and I have to order wood and then I have to send money to a designer and then I have to sell it and then I have to hold it and I have a warehouse. Someone with a lot of moving pieces, like you mentioned, Chris, should definitely have QuickBooks Desktop. It'll just be a lot more seamless.
And how about if you have a service-based business, but multiple employees?
Multiple employees, as in, like how many we want to say?
Let's say I'm seeing a common thread, max maybe 5.
Oh, then QuickBooks Online. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll also be the most cost efficient. Yeah. So let's say myself, I'm a consultant, but I work with other consultants or contractors, and they're not my employees, but I pay them every month and I need to issue a 1099 to them at the end of the year. QuickBooks Online is great for that. It's perfect for that. And they'll issue the 1099s for me. So.
Perfect. I'm also seeing some questions here on integrations. So there's tons of integrations that I'm assuming QuickBooks can do. And, it depends on what you're using. So we can't go over all the integrations, but I definitely recommend to go to QuickBooks.com, click on wherever it says integrations or maybe like the help desk. And there should be a list of maybe thousands of apps.
650 integrations, 650.
Right.
All of your Square, there's so many. I can't even tell you, like if you use a preferred mileage app, that works with QuickBooks, there's just so many. All you would need to do is, if you don't want to look through obviously the whole list of 650, they do it also by category. You can put in keywords based on your business. And maybe you'll also find integrations of services that maybe you don't currently utilize, and you can use via that information. So there's tons of integrations. QuickBooks Online, is just more for the modern day. It's more modern age. And it's just meant to be a little more customizable compared to QuickBooks Desktop.
Perfect. I'm seeing here, is there some type of QuickBooks program for bookkeeping services?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say you're a bookkeeping firm, or you want to start a bookkeeping business, you can create a QuickBooks Accountant subscription, and all your clients can have access to their file via or under you. So my name is XYZ Booking. I have bookkeeping, I have 10 different clients. I can have all of those 10 different clients under my one hub, similarly to like having a business. So yes, you can absolutely do it that way. Yeah.
Awesome. I know one of the questions also is access. So let's say you have a bookkeeper or an employee that's managing your finances, but it seems like they have to always log in using your credentials. Is there a way to share access to certain things, not everything?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So every user that you add to either platform, you design the permissions and visibility for. So you never, and you should never, unless it's someone you deeply trust, meaning another partner in the business, you shouldn't share your credentials. I mean, that's just the way the world is built now. But you can give all that person access through their own credentials, and they're able to see whatever they need to see. Now, if they need to see something a little more custom, like they need access for a day for this particular permission, you can always change that. You can change it on the dime. You can change their permissions from 1 second to the other. So if they need to have access to certain permissions for a day, it doesn't have a clock per se. You would have to manually adjust it again, but it's easy to allow and take away, so to speak.
Awesome. So I'm seeing some final questions here. I'm hoping this answered most of your questions, because I've been seeing these sort of common threads throughout the presentation. We know that we can do payroll on QuickBooks. We know desktop is better suited for product-based, inventory-based sort of businesses. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Interrupt you, Chris. I'm sorry. Just
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
piggyback off of payroll. So let's say you don't use QuickBooks for payroll and you use ADP or another provider. They have a way to import the data of your payroll into QuickBooks for you. So you don't have to create a payroll journal entry if it's mapped correctly. I only recommend that for service-based businesses. You're paying a contractor a flat fee. If it's something incredibly complicated like PTO and deductions, and no, you don't want to import that because it's going to be very difficult to map that out to go to the right places. But if you're a one-stop shop and you're just doing a very simple payroll, or a payroll that's repetitive, you're paying the same 3 people the same amount however your cycle works, there's a way to automate that. So that's less, I guess that it's less headaches, and less chances of errors, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you said both desktop and online can do payroll, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, they both offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Last question, and I think everyone would probably be curious if, in terms of costs, what is probably best for someone who's trying to save, what's the lowest cost entry level thing, QuickBooks program that, you could start off with, and maybe if possible, can you upgrade later?
Okay, so the QuickBooks license from a total per year or like return on investment is cheaper, the QuickBooks desktop license, because you're paying one sum to have that license for however long, right? It's like taking it back to the days of AOL. You get the disk, you insert the disk, it installs in your computer, you're done. However, the limitation with that is that the access, right? We won't be able to access that from everywhere. We can't install that in multiple computers. So it really depends on the business. So from a cost perspective, buying a license is cheaper. You're going to get more use of it in the long run. However, from a accessibility and cost perspective, QuickBooks Online has a simple start. And when you go to register or create your QuickBooks, and they offer a trial, by the way. So if you ever want, if you're not sure which way you're going, and you want to give a QuickBooks Online a trial, you totally can. Please note that if you start working on the trial and you import all this information and decide you're not going to pay, your information is gone. So they're not going to give you, 30 days and you get to take everything with you. No. But the simple start is, I think, I don't know, $10, $15. It's tax season, so I'm sure there's a ton of promotions out there for like 50% off or whatever. There's definitely cost-effective ways to use either platform.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I think we covered most of the questions. So I know that there's a lot of individual ones. I'd like to invite everyone to register for no cost counseling. You can use the QR code on the right. I believe it's just an email and your county that we need first, and then we'll send you everything you need to get registered.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
again, Sierra.
Thank you all. Please sign up for the counseling. If anything else, if right now you don't have the budget to even talk to a CPA, you're unsure of what direction you're going in, it's at zero cost to you. It's going to help you tremendously. No need to reinvent the wheel. If someone is there who has the resources available at their fingertips. I'm a consultant as well. I love working with small business owners and our communities. This is so important in order to grow and thrive, right? This is the point of these webinars, and the point of this service is so that you guys can be fruitful and continue to grow and do better. So it's been a pleasure for me to share all this information with you, and reach out to your local center so you can get more support.
Awesome. And for those still on here, next week we have another webinar. And here, so now that we get you set up on QuickBooks, now you need to know how to read the numbers, right? So next week, we're going to show you the fundamentals of small business finances with one of our senior business consultants. And he's going to show us, how to read your numbers. So go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen here to register now. Or if you want to do it later, you can go ahead to njsbdc.com/events.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I would like to, whoever can stick around towards the end, this is a big group, and I have a personal survey question that's for the NJSBDC right after I close this out. So if you want to stick around and talk to me for maybe 5 seconds, that'd be great. But for everyone that was here for the webinar, this is the NJSBDC. We've helped over 15,000 plus small businesses. We help you with no cost business consulting, training and events starting at $0, and exclusive small business resources. So if you haven't gotten started, go ahead to njsbdc.com. You submit an email in your county and you get started. So thank you everyone for joining. And that is pretty much it from here. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.